Hey, this is Wendy with Loaves and Dishes, and today we are going to be making some old-fashioned Amish potato soup. Now I'm going to tell you this recipe can be changed up to meet just about any needs. I'm starting with some chicken broth, but of course you could use vegetable broth, or you could use bouillon cubes, or broth concentrate, which there's a terrific brand out on the market called Better Than Bouillon. It is really fantastic. You would need about 8 cups of water and then a couple of heaping tablespoons of that bouillon concentrate. Now, these are my potatoes. I'm using russets. You can see I've cut them up in about 1-inch cubes. I'm adding some salt, and that's garlic powder, and I think I'm going to add some pepper here in a second. You don't have to use russet potatoes. You could use the Yukon Golds or red potatoes, and then you wouldn't even have to peel them. So really any potato you have will work. And then I'm using green onion today, but I could have just as easily used just a regular yellow or white onion. I would have put those in first and let those saute and then added the other ingredients. Here I'm checking to see if my potatoes are done. You could see that the fork did not slide into the potato very easily, so it's not ready yet. Now, this is not really boiling that hard. I have speeded this video up because I know that nobody wants to sit and watch a pot of potatoes come to a boil and then boil for a while and cook. So it is really sped up. You don't want to boil it that as hard as it looks like I'm boiling it here. Just a simmer, just a gentle simmer. Now you can see the fork is sliding into the potato pretty easily. So I know my soup is about ready. It's time to move on with the other ingredients. I'm going to add some milk. Again, if you don't have milk, or if you have a problem with milk, you could use a substitute. Evaporated milk works, or I'm assuming that almond milk and those kind of substitutes would work as well if you're sensitive to milk. So just give it a stir. And then I'm adding some butter here because it needs a little fat. That's what helps flavor glide over your tongue. If you don't have any butter, or if you're sensitive to butter, you could add a couple tablespoons of vegetable oil or some type of like bacon grease, or whatever. We're kind of in hard times and we have to modify our recipes with what we have available. So oh there's Ziggy, my little dog, who's always running around my feet. Anyway, so now you can see we need to let that simmer for just a little bit to let the milk taste kind of cook out of it. And then I used my kitchen spider and I scooped out about 2 cups full of potatoes. And the rest of them there, I am going to use my immersion blender, and I'm going to blend them up into the soup. There's some sour cream, and that will effectively thicken the soup. You can see that it's not a very thick soup right now, but it will get thicker. There's my immersion blender. That's just blending up the other potatoes that are in there, and you'll see that it kind of froths up the soup as well, and that froth will die down. So if you are using an immersion blender on yours and you're worried about how frothy it is, don't worry about it. Now we just added our whole potato pieces back to the soup, and I'm adding some cheese. Of course, an old-fashioned potato soup doesn't really have cheese in it, but we like ours with cheese. So again, just make this recipe your own. You could add, there's a lot of things you could add. You could add some kind of extra meat you may have, chicken, turkey, hamburger, ground hamburger, that kind of thing. Now we're gonna wait for it to melt. Bacon is a good one, and really a classic Amish potato soup has pieces of ham. So if you have that, that would be fantastic. So now we're gonna let this Let it simmer a little bit. Let the flavors meld. If you are sensitive to sour cream, instead you could use some creme fraiche or whole fat organic yogurt. Plain yogurt would work. Well, now you can see my husband's leg and Ziggy in the picture. This is a whole family affair here around this pot of soup. Anyway, so this is a large pan I have on the stove. It probably holds 6 quarts, and you can see that it's just a little below the top of the pan, so it makes quite a lot. You'll be eating soup for a couple days, so maybe make a gift of it to some of your neighbors. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. And then I'm going to show you here in a second, because the cheese should thicken up the soup, and using the immersion blender should thicken the soup. Adding the sour cream should thicken it. But maybe if it's still not as thick as you prefer for it to be, you can thicken it using some cornstarch. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that here in a second. What we're going to do is heap 3 tablespoons, and I really do heaping tablespoons, of cornstarch into I usually do it in my glass liquid measuring cup. To that, you add 3 tablespoons of cool water. It's really important that you use cool water, not some of your soup. Don't put the cornstarch directly into the soup, because then it will just clump and it will not thicken at all. Mix it separately in cool water. Use a fork. You'll feel that it's very stiff to start with, and then if you just keep mixing, it will eventually loosen up, and it will kind of look like milk. There you go. There it was. I told you I sped this up. Boop. Stuck it in front of the camera and then out. Here I am mixing it. It's so stiff, and then it loosens right up, and it looks like milk. And you just add that in. Give it a few minutes. See how thick your soup is. If it's not as thick as you like, just repeat. That's all you got to do. So we don't like a super thick soup at our house, and I think this is about right for us. So you can see I've still got plenty of potato pieces in there, even though I blended some. And there you can see kind of the consistency of the soup. And that's all. I hope you enjoy. Watch some of my other videos.
Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you'll join Sarah and I on our mother-daughter adventures in takeout. You can find Dorks with Sports wherever you download podcasts or at dorkswithsports.com.